Good morning everyone. Namaskar to all. This is Balneet Singh Bedi. I welcome all of you to the daily news analysis session by Tathastu ICS. Good morning Khan Bhai, Gagan. Let's start with today's session. So under Mains Manthan, we have two important editorials. The first editorial, Miles to Go, talks about the precedent rule in the state of Manipur. We will discuss the precedent rule in detail about what is precedent rule, under what conditions we impose precedent rule. Good morning RK, Dheeraj, Ruchi, Mamta, Syed Beg, Deepti. Good morning everyone. Now let's get back here. So this talks about the precedent rule. We will discuss the precedent rule in whole detail, the conditions to impose, which is the Supreme Court judgment regarding the precedent rule. All of that we will be discussing in detail in this editorial. Now the next editorial talks about the obesity crisis in India. Why obesity has taken all of a sudden the center of attraction? Because Narendra Modi, Honorable PM, has nominated eminent people to raise awareness about obesity, and after that we have seen many editorials in and out in the Hindu newspaper every other day. Under prelims, we have four important news. First is SIPRI report, which talks about the largest importer, the arms importer. According to this report, the recent report, India is no more the largest arms importer. Now we have another country. We will see in detail which country is this now. Then the second TB elimination program, we will see about the tuberculosis, the government interventions, policies which government is taking in order to reduce the burden of tuberculosis. Then we have a Calcutta High Court judge who has been elevated to Supreme Court. We'll just take a gist who is that judge, as well as the collegium system. What is collegium system? Just overhaul of the collegium system and rest. Then we have new Canada PM. We'll just be aware about who has become and who has replaced Justin Trudeau. Then the first editorial, Miles to Go. Why in news? Precedent rule in Manipur. We all know Manipur is going through ethnic violence between two major communities, the Meitei community as well as Kuki-Zo community. They both have been going through the ethnic violence since May 2023. Recently in February, the Chief Minister of Manipur, that is N. Biren Singh, has resigned, and there is imposition of precedent rule in the state. So we will discuss the precedent rule, and I will tell you that there were two PYQs as well on precedent rule. I have included that as well as a mains question from the emergency provisions of the Indian Constitution. So this topic is very, very important. If there is a PYQ, 100% that topics become important. You cannot afford to miss that topic when you are going through the subject. Then which part of syllabus? We all know it's Indian polity. This is the newspaper clipping. Then what is the first slide says? So firstly, the basic question. Good morning everyone. Vikas, Nazia, Rishi, everyone, good morning. So the first thing is, what is precedent rule? Anyone, what is precedent rule? So according to Article 356 of the Indian Constitution, when there is failure of constitutional machinery in the state, there is imposition of precedent rule in the state. Now what does this phrase means? Failure of constitutional machinery in the states. It means when the state government is unable to function according to the provisions of the Indian Constitution, or when the governance of the state or the governance in the state is unable to comply with the constitutional directions, the president can assume control on the state, and that is precedent rule. So what is precedent rule? Precedent rule under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution is invoked when there is failure of constitutional machinery in the state, as we have discussed, when the governance in the state cannot be performed as per the provisions of the Indian Constitution, or state government is unable to comply with the constitutional directions, the president can assume control over the state. This means the state government is unable to function according to constitutional norms and union government takes control. Then what does the second, okay, before this, precedent rule is also known as state emergency as well as constitutional emergency. State emergency and constitutional emergency. But the one fact here is Indian constitution has not used the word emergency for precedent rule. It has used national emergency, financial emergency, but for precedent rule, it has not used the word emergency. It's the constitutional experts which has given the term state emergency, constitutional emergency. In constitution, संविधान में सिर्फ precedent rule ही लिखा गया है, right? Now we will see the next slide which says when precedent rule is imposed, what happens. So when precedent rule is imposed, the powers of the state government, the chief minister, the council of minister is transferred to the president as well as the union government. The state assembly powers are transferred to Indian parliament. The president cannot assume powers vested in the High Court. This is important. The constitutional status, the power, the functions of the state High Court remains the same even if there is imposition of precedent rule in the state. High Court को कुछ भी उसका power, uski functions, uska constitutional position, nothing changes. High Court performs the same way whether there is a government at the state level or whether there is imposition of the precedent rule. The only thing changes is chief minister and council of minister, they get suspended or dissolved and their power has been taken over by the president of India as well as the union government. Then the president proclamation must be laid before this, can be renewed after 2 months only with approval of the both houses. This. Now I'll explain this in very simple terms. Suppose today is 11th of March and today there is imposition of precedent rule in Manipur. Within 2 months from 11th of March, that is 11th of April, 11th of May, by 11th of May, this proclamation of imposition of precedent rule in Manipur needs to be approved by Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. So the proclamation needs to be approved by both houses of the parliament within 2 months. And it needs approval every 6 months and maximum period it can be extended for 3 years. So 2 महीने में लोक सभा एंड राज्य सभा नीड्स टू अप्रूव जो मणिपुर में प्रेसिडेंट रूल लगा है. एवरी 6 months the president rule needs approval from the house of parliament as well as it can be extended for a maximum period of 3 years. So 2 months, then 6 months, and then we have maximum period is 3 years. Right, I have added an image where everything is there. Duration maximum of 3 years, approval of parliament every 6 months, then appointed governor which will be the executive authority, must be approved by parliament within 2 months of its issuance, by president anytime, and when there is a revocation of precedent rule we do not need parliamentary approval. President Draupadi Murmu ji would think, okay, this is the right time, I should take back or I should revoke the precedent rule. She can do it. There is no need of parliamentary approval for the same. Then the next, the conditions. What are the conditions for the imposition of the precedent rule? So article 356 does not explicitly mention any of the grounds. This is very important. If you notice here, article 356 में कहीं नहीं लिखा गया है, कोई grounds mention नहीं करे हैं that on this grounds only the precedent rule can be imposed. List the circumstances invoking the precedent rule when the president advised by the Union Council of Ministers is satisfied that government in a state cannot be conducted according to the provisions of the constitution, we will impose precedent rule. Very good. I can see so many comments. Very good. Suresh, Deepti, Khan Bhai, Mitra. Very good. Absolutely correct. So these are the reasons. The law and order breakdown. Law and order breakdown when there are huge violence, communal rights in the state. So law and order breakdown. There is defection by MLAs. It could be a hung assembly. Then no confidence motion passed. Then breakup of coalition sarkar. Then resignations of chief minister. Biren Singh resigned. No PM, no council of minister. Precedent rule. Then public agitations leading to instability. And we have been seeing this in Manipur for the past 2 years. Okay, one thing here you need to know. In this diagram, when can precedent rule be extended? According to 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, precedent rule cannot be imposed in any state beyond 1 year. अगर 3 साल तक मैक्सिमम एक्सटेंड हो सकता है, बट अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, दैट इज 44th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1978, अगर 1 साल से ज्यादा प्रेसिडेंट रूल को लागू करना एक स्टेट में, so 2 conditions needs to be fulfilled. First is national emergency, and second, if election commission says that the situation is unfavorable to conduct elections in a state, so President Ji, please continue your president rule. I'll just read it for you. A proclamation of national emergency is in operation, or election commission certifies that the continuance of president rule is necessary to hold assembly elections. So you need to remember this amendment as well. That is 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. Then the next very important judgment. Now why this judgment? Firstly, this is S.R. Bommai versus Union of India judgment 1994. I just write it here. S.R. Bommai versus Union of India 1994. Now what does this judgment talks about, and why this judgment? Because the imposition of president rule was being misused by the central government. Why central government? Suppose Congress Sarkar is at the central level, and state level we have some other Sarkar. It could be Aam Aadmi Party, it could be Trinamool, it could be DMK, it could be any, it could be BJP, any. So whatever central government was doing, agar kuch bhi, there are political, viewpoints, perspectives which are different from the own party, so they used to impose president rule. So there was a misuse of Article 356. Even in Lakshmikant, there is a paragraph, misuse of Article 356. So you need to revise it today. Right? So this judgment was passed by Supreme Court, and it has been a landmark legislation. How landmark legislation? I'll tell you in next slide, that the imposition of president rule after this judgment has been reduced to 30 in a span of 10 or 15 years, and before that there were 100 cases of president rule. So what this judgment say, that is S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case 1994, the Bommai judgment brought a significant shift in how the president rule is being viewed. The Supreme Court ruled that president rule could be judicially reviewed. It brought the imposition of president rule under judicial review. Agar president has imposed the rule, so we can review whether it's malified, it's justified or not. So meaning the courts could examine if the proclamation was based on valid material and if it was issued in malified manner, कि भाई आपका justification है, union government has to say कि हाँ on these grounds we have imposed the president rule. Supreme Court would decide whether it's justified or not, or whether it's malified, or you have imposed it in bad faith manner. This ruling provide a safeguard against the potential misuse of this power. The Bommai case also clarified that president rule could not be imposed arbitrarily and required factual justification. This judgment discouraged its misuse, making it less frequent in recent decades. Now, in order to substantiate this statement that it has been less frequent in the recent decades, the next slide says the data. Right, this slide said the frequency of president rule post Bommai judgment. Now between 1950 and 1994, president rule was invoked 100 times. 1950 से 1994 के बीच में 100 बार president rule को impose किया गया, averaging 2.5 times per year. But after the S.R. Bommai judgment, its frequency declined. That is just 30 times in the past 30 years. So you can imagine that this judgment has been the significant milestone in order to prevent the arbitrary use of Article 356. Right? So only 30 times in the past 30 years, that approx once per year. And यहाँ पे क्या था? 2.5 times per year. The last instance before Manipur was in Puducherry in February 2021. So Manipur में February में लगा है, इससे पहले the last instance was of Puducherry, that was 2021. So now we can see that now it has been reduced to the utmost level. Right? Now in conclusion, the president rule is a constitutional remedy for governance failure. अगर कोई state government नहीं provisions के तहत कम कर पा रही है, then it's a constitutional remedy, but its frequent imposition, especially for political reasons, has been criticized. The Bombay judgment sought to limit its arbitrary use, but the political misuse of Article 356 remains a concern. With this, we have revised one of the most important part of emergency provisions chapter, that is chapter number 17 and 7th edition Lakshmikant. We have covered one of the major portion, that is precedent rule. So after the session ends, just revise precedent rule. It's important from your prelims as well as mains perspective for 2025. Now you have a prelims PYQ. Please solve this question and give me the correct answer. Solve this, read each and every statement carefully. Right? Read the question carefully. I have mentioned this in italic as well. So don't miss this. Please solve this question. Okay, everyone is saying B. Absolutely, B is the correct answer. How many of you given B? RK, Lokesh, Mamta, Sanali, Mitra, Gagan, Khanbhai. Very good beta. So B is the correct answer. Which of the following are not necessarily the consequences of proclamation of precedent rule in a state? First option says dissolution of the state legislative assembly. The president can either suspend or dissolve the state legislative assembly. It is not necessary the consequence, the fixed consequence कि state legislative assembly को dissolve ही करना है. It can be suspended too. So this is wrong. Then removal of the council of minister. We all know this is the first most thing. सबसे पहले council of minister को हटाया जाता है. Then dissolution of the local bodies. This is also wrong. So 1 and 3 are not the consequences. Local bodies, panchayat, municipalities, they function as their own. High court as well, they function. The constitutional status, the power, the functions, it remains the same. Then we have one more question, the PYQ. It was asked in 2017 and this in 2018. Now solve this question and give me the correct answer. Very good. Narendra, Rehan, Kalarani, everyone. Sonali, very good. Now solve this question. Come on, quick, give me the answer. Yes, very good. Anupali, Sai, Mr. Gagan. Absolutely, the correct answer is B, Vikas. Very good. So the question says, if the President of India exercises powers as provided under Article 356 of the Constitution with respect to a particular state, then what happens? The first says the assembly of the state is automatically dissolved. I just said either suspended or dissolved. Good. Ruchi, Mamta, Binandan, Dheeraj, Rehan, Sonali, Sakshi, Krishna, Rishi. Everyone has given the correct answer. The assembly of state is automatically dissolved. No, it can be suspended as well. Then Article 19 is suspended in that state. No. The president can make laws relating to that state. No. The powers of the legislature of that state shall be exercisable by or under the authority of the parliament. This is the correct answer. Now, one thing you would notice in 2018, what the first option says, the assembly of the state is automatically dissolved. And here, if you see in 2017, same point in number 1, dissolution of the state legislative assembly. Are you able to connect the dots? PYQs are getting repeated. जो यहाँ ऑप्शन में था उस क्वेश्चन में भी it is the same option. So there is interlinkage. That is why PYQs are the bedrock of UPSC. These are the only questions which we can predict. इनमें से देख के we can predict okay what can be asked, what cannot be asked. So PYQs are the bedrock. You need to practice PYQs holistically and religiously. Now there was a mains PYQ as well, though it was from financial emergency, but still we can expect a question on precedent rule as well. If you want, you can write it as well. Under what circumstances can the financial emergency be proclaimed by the President of India? What consequences follow when such declaration is in force? Exact question from Lakshmikant. It has been mentioned there, right? In paragraphs it has been mentioned. Now we'll move to our next editorial, which talks about the obesity crisis in India. It's not very much important from the exam perspective. I have excluded the data which is not important, but I've kept the facts. So we have 4 to 5 slides here and we'll cover this very quickly. Now, flawed food regulations fuel the obesity crisis in India. So as per one of the report, 44 crore Indians would be obese by 2050. Now Narendra Modi, honorable PM, is saying this is huge, this is scary, right? 44 crore Indians would be obese by 2050. That is why he has underlined the need to educate the youth about the consumption of oil, about unhealthy eating. He has said all of this in his monthly Man Ki Baat, the radio broadcast Man Ki Baat, right? And after that, he has nominated politicians, business leaders, lawmakers, actors to spread awareness about obesity in India. Why in news? Public health and nutrition policies. It covers GS2 health and nutrition as well as GS3 economic development. Now the first slide says obesity crisis in India. 1 in 4 adults in India is obese and 1 in 4 adults is diabetic or pre-diabetic according to NFHS, National Family Health Survey 5. Even you have a image as well, so you can go through this. Right, see, it's been written, India weighty problem, 1 out of every 4 persons obese now. Despite awareness, obesity and related health issues remain pressing problems due to ineffective food regulations. This editorial is also criticizing the food regulators. They are saying they have a corporate nexus. Right, even the food which is unhealthy, the junk food, the food regulators are giving them higher ratings, right? So who will consume? We all as consumers will go to the market, we'll see, oh, rating is high, rating is good, we'll buy that, right? But we don't know that it's high in salt, it's high in sugar, it's high in fat. That would be a problem. So this editorial talks about that problem. Now, ineffective food labeling and advertising regulations. The FSSAI proposed the Indian Nutrition Rating System in 2022, which is modeled on Australia's system, but criticized for being industry friendly and not reflecting true health risk. So they have corporate nexus, they are industry friendly and not consumer friendly. Right, the system assigns stars to unhealthy food items like high in fat, salt, sugar. HFSS is high in fat, salt and sugar, and UPFR ultra processed food, misleading consumers into believing such foods are healthier than they actually are. This I have just discussed with you. Then the flawed as well as the ambiguous regulations. Existing laws on misleading advertising are vague with no clear definition of what constitutes this. So there is no clear definition. It's vague, it's ambiguous. What are the foods which are high in fat, salt, sugar, or ultra processed food? Even the Consumer Protection Act 2019 is ineffective in regulating advertisements, especially those targeting children and youth. No sort of explanation is needed. Everything is understandable here. Now, the last slide which talks about economic survey. Even economic survey has decided to impose a health tax so that the prices of those commodities would increase. Once the increase, there would be less consumption. But I believe jisko khana hai junk food, wo khayega hi khayega. So all of you, be responsible. Turn your dietary habits towards healthy living, right? Do some physical workout as well. It's required. Along with your studies, spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes for your physical well-being and your mental well-being, that is yoga and meditation. So do that. It's required. Once prelims is approaching, it's required. There would be more anxiety, right? So focus on that as well. So 2025 economic survey imposes a health tax on ultra processed foods to curb consumption and reduce obesity. It also stresses the need for mandatory warning labels and stricter advertising regulations. जो भी labels होंगे that would be mandatory कि warning, उसके ऊपर बड़ा warning sign होगा, the way we have seen on cigarette boxes, right? We have a cancer sort of, you know, mouth cancer picture and all of that. It covers 80% of the box, right? Rest 20% mentions the brand name and all. Otherwise 80% covers the warning that it is injurious to health. So stricter advertising regulations to reduce the consumption of unhealthy foods. With this, we have completed the editorial part. Now we will switch to prelims news. We have 4 important news here. In this, the first is SIPRI report. SIPRI is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute report. That is the arms report. It tells that which is the country which is the largest arms importer as well as the exporter. So India's position as second largest arms importer, India has taken the second position. Earlier it was at the first. India was the largest arms importer, but now India comes at second. Now which is the first country? Very basic, we all know it's going to be Ukraine because of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Though European Union, US, Trump, all of them are sitting and trying to bring a peace deal. They are trying to end the truce between both the countries, that is Russia and Ukraine. So India is the second largest arms importer globally during the period this, following Ukraine, which saw a massive rise in arms imports with its ongoing conflict with Russia. Arms import to India decreased by itna from this period. Again, the data not important. Then the next slide talks about Russian arm imports. So 36% of Russian arm imports came from Russia, and which is a decrease from this percent reflecting Russia's share in India's arms procurement. So earlier India तो सबसे ज़्यादा arms import करता था, but which country used to export arms to India? It was Russia. But according to this report, now it's not Russia, it's France now, right? Now we will see India is the largest recipient of French arms export, receiving 28% of France global arm exports. We have Rafale jets as well as Scorpion class submarines, 6 Scorpion class submarines. This is your homework, right? Go for which are these 6 class submarines, go through it once. Then France arms export to other European countries increase. So France is not only exporting the arms to India, it's also exporting to its neighboring countries or European countries, the Greece, Croatia as well as Ukraine, right? Then comes the next slide. For the first time, China is out of top 10 countries who used to import arms. China is not there in the top 10 list. Why? Because it's focusing on domestic manufacturing, which India is also focusing upon at the highest pace, right? India also wants indigenous manufacturing. They believe in technology transfer. The Prime Minister, Defense Minister, we are having talks with France, with US and Russia as well to transfer the technology so that we can enhance the manufacturing within our borders only. So for the first time, China has dropped out of 10 arms importer, which reflect growing domestic defense capabilities. Pakistan arms import increased 81. We all know Pakistan is a China's ally, right? It has become a very close friend of China. So Pakistan ke jitne bhi arms aa rahe hain, out of that 81% is being supplied by China. China is playing here. China is playing debt trap diplomacy, and we all know what the situation in Pakistan is. Wherever you look in Pakistan, there would be something going on, either civil war, some sort of unrest, some sort of terrorism, suicide blast, something is going on. So it's a very degrading country now. The US increased its share of global arms export to 43%. Russia export fell by this, and France emerged as the second largest arms exporter with a share of this percentage. Again, percentage is not important. The major part was in the first slide only. Now, this was in the newspaper. Over 6 lakh cases identified as TB control program. The news is not important, but the context is important. So tuberculosis will quickly revise. Tuberculosis is a bacterial infection caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It can be practically affect any organ of the body, be it lungs, lymph nodes, intestine, spine and brain. It is an airborne infection that spreads through close contact with the infected individuals, infected patients. Then the next, about half of the TB cases can be found in 8 countries, all developing countries or the developing economies, that is Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Pakistan, South Africa, Nigeria. So half of the cases are in these countries, but India is having quarter of them. Around 26% of the cases are in India alone. So we are the highest burden of tuberculosis. India is the highest burden of tuberculosis. Now, what are the global efforts? The WHO, Global Fund and Stop TB Partnership is running this campaign, Find, Treat, All, End TB. Then they are hoping to end it by 2030. So they have a blueprint, they have a global plan. It also publishes the annual Global Tuberculosis Report, which talks about the updates on the TB patients and what can be done further. Now here we have symptoms. You can just go through it. The chest pain, fever, cough, hemoptysis, fatigue, loss of appetite, night sweat, weight loss, all of that is there, and these are the global data which you can go through later. Then what are the initiatives which are taken by our country, India? So India is taking Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, National Strategic Plan for Tuberculosis Elimination. We have a target to eliminate TB by this year, by 2025. 5 years ahead of global target. Global target is 2030. We are saying we'll do it by 2025. We're gonna come first. Then TB Harega, Desh Jeetega campaign, Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Then we have Report India. Report India, basically it's an initiative which does the research and development in the tuberculosis disease. And what does it say? It looks after the antimicrobial drugs and what can be done to reach the benefits or to give the benefits to the tuberculosis patients, right? All this are government data. You can go through it. This is from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare program. Then there was a PYQ, though it was not directly from the tuberculosis, but it was a similar question. Yes, very good, Kalarani. Gagan, good, very good. So yeah, someone has given that as well. Very good, Vikas. Scorpion class submarines. Yeah, it's nice that you are revising and you're learning everything. Very good. So which of the following diseases can be transmitted from one person to another through tattooing? Anyone? Give me the answer. Take a minute. Give me the answer. Very good, Ashwini, RK, Pooja, Gagan, Rehan, Khan Bhai, Muniba, Sonali, Lokesh. Everyone has given the correct answer. So the correct answer is B. Hepatitis B and HIV/AIDS can be spread through tattooing. Why not chikungunya? Chikungunya is a viral infection, right? It's a viral infection spread by mosquitoes. Specifically, we have Aedes aegypti mosquito. right? So it cannot be spread through tattooing. Hepatitis B and HIV/AIDS can be spread through. So the correct answer is B. It was asked in 2013. Then the next is a prelims practice question. Solve this question. I hope it's visible to you, though the font is little small, but I hope it's visible to you. Please solve this question. Vikas, read statements carefully. Don't hush hush and give answers. Don't do it in prelims. These are very easy questions. Aram se padho and then give the answer. Absolutely. I guess everyone has given the correct answer. Ashwini, Rishi, Devraj, Gagan, Ruchi, Mamta, Pallavi. Everyone is giving the correct answer. So, which of the following statements regarding tuberculosis in India are correct? The first statement says India is the world's highest burden country for tuberculosis, accounting for 1/4 of the global TB burden. As I said, we have 26% of the global TB burden. The second statement says, yes, Shweta, Sonali, Khanbhai, Sonali, Vikas, it's okay, no problem. Just practice, right? Be aware, be alert, be attentive while doing these questions. Don't do it wrong. Bharati, Rehan, jaldi answer देने के चक्कर में don't do it wrong. So take a deep breath, look at each and every statement carefully, then solve. Good, Pooja. The second statement says National Strategic Plan for Tuberculosis Elimination aims to eliminate TB in India by 2030. Is it right? No. Mamta, right. It's 2025. 5 years ahead of global target. Global target is 2030, but India is saying 2025. We हम पहले आएंगे, हम first आएंगे. So the second statement is wrong. The third statement says Nikshay Poshan Yojana, government initiative, nutritional support to TB patients. Absolutely right. Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, eliminate TB through community involvement, which also involve financial assistance to the TB patients through DBT, that is direct benefit transfer. Second statement is wrong, so the correct answer is B. B is the correct answer. Most of you have given the correct answer. Very good. Then Justice Joya Mallya Bakchi has been elevated to the top court. He is serving in the Calcutta High Court and now he will be the judge in Supreme Court. So the president has appointed or union government has given the approval. So I'll read it for you. Justice Joy Mallya Bakchi of the Calcutta High Court has been appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court Collegium resolution emphasized regional representation in judicial appointment alongside merit and integrity. So what is collegium system of Supreme Court? We'll quickly revise this quickly in 2-3 lines. I'll sum it up. Collegium system. So basically collegium system is a system of appointment, is a system of transfer of judges in the Supreme Court as well as the High Court. Now the appointment covers Article 124(2) and Article 217 for the Supreme Court and 217 for the High Court. Under these articles, we have a process of appointment of judges in the Supreme Court as well as the High Court. Now in Supreme Court, who heads the Supreme Court Collegium? Supreme Court Collegium is headed by Chief Justice of India and 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. So in Supreme Court, we have CGI plus 4 senior most judges, and in High Court we have Chief Justice of the High Court plus we have 2 senior most judges of the High Court, right? So collegium system is the system of appointment as well as the process of transfer of judges in the Supreme Court as well as the High Court, and collegium system is headed by CGI, and CGI of High Court in the case of High Court with 4 senior judges and 2 senior judges. Now the last, just for your reference, who has replaced Canada PM? It's Mark Carney, right? Just you should know, that's it, otherwise nothing important. With this we have come to the end of daily news analysis session. All the very best to each one of you. Study well, practice the precedent rule chapter, right? Go to emergency provisions, revise that, be very attentive, be very alert, be disciplined, be consistent, put your persistent effort every day. Prelims is close by, it's 25th of May. Make sure you count each and every day, right? हर दिन पढ़ाई करनी है, ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी मैं ब्रेक ले रहा हूँ, अभी मैं ये कर रहा हूँ, वो कर रहा हूँ. थोड़ा बहुत, if you want to do physical workout or your mental well-being, everything, do that, practice that, so that you don't get in panic when the May is approaching, right? I've seen many students वो बहुत अच्छे से पूरे साल पढ़ाई कर रहे होते हैं, but when the prelims is coming, they get lot anxious. They like हमें कुछ याद ही नहीं आ रहा. And do not pick up any new source. If you are picking up new source, make sure you are able to revise it. First, I would say don't pick up any new source. If you are going through any of the magazines as well, revise it. Revise whatever you have studied in the past 10 months, right? I hope you have done your serious studying. Revision is the key to clear UPSC. Always remember, Padna, even I am there, even if I'm going to study one source once, trust me, after 3 months I'll remember 10% of it. 90% I will not remember, right? So revision is the key in UPSC. Revision is the bedrock. You can't miss revision. You can miss reading one of the other books, mat padho, but jitna padha hai usse अच्छे से पढ़ो. Minimum resources and maximum revision. Very good, Vikas. With this I end today's session. All the very best to each one of you. Best of luck. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.